Hi, I'm rabsef-bicrym, and with me is Sagram Savluk. I think he's
Hello.
on that side of the screen. There we go. Yeah. And together we're a part of Quartus and Hoon Development Studio that works primarily on Urbit, doing our own products and also products for other companies. If you're interested in the services we offer, you can contact us after the stream. Quartus builds applications on Urbit by coming up with names first and then figuring out what the Hoon's going to do and make it do that thing. Not every name that we come up with results in a valid product, so we kind of have to iterate a lot to get the right fit. As a result, we've become pretty proficient at quickly producing user space Gall applications on Urbit. Over the course of this demonstration, we're going to build a Hoon agent live, as well as expose you to some patterns you might see in modern Gall agents. We'll also reveal some tips and tricks from our experience in rapid Hoon prototyping. So Vinny's going to help me out here, and I think we can go ahead and get started by walking through what you're going to need to set up this experiment on your own. I think I can share my screen here, and you can find all of the resources that we're going to use in the description below. Also, I'll make sure to tweet about them later, so you can check that out as well. So what I have on screen right now is just my general setup for doing some hooning. I have primary files that I use from the core operating system on the right here. I have an agent that we're going to move into in the middle here, so we can kind of talk about that direction in a little bit. And then I have this blank agent that is in links below, as we said, that I use to just get started on prototyping something. So this desk will commit on its own and get ready to go, and I can start building from it. We'll get to that in a second, though, because we need to set up first. So today we're going to be building a Remind Me bot for the new groups chat feature from Tlon Corp. So, Vinny, have you ever used the Remind Me bot on Reddit, I think it is, or on Twitter for that matter?
Yeah, like 25 years ago.
Yeah, okay. So back when it was popular, we're really, finger on the pulse over here at Quartus, and we're going to build that today for a chat agent. So what we need to do that is basically like four parts. We need to watch the chat product from Tlon Corp. So we're going to watch facts that come out of it and look for a chat message or something, some instruction that we can use to cause a reminder. We need to look for that instruction. So we need to know the shape of our instruction and be able to like catch it and then do something as a result of it. The instruction needs to come with a time whereupon we'd like the reminder. So we could say 2 days or 5 weeks or a year and a half or whatever. So we need to be able to interpret that time from the instructor, us, or whomever's giving us the instruction. And then lastly, we need to wait for that amount of time and send a reminder. So it's pretty straightforward. Those four elements are what we're going to be putting together today. In order to do that, we need to make our font larger. We can do that. In order to get those things, in order to get those things done, we're going to need to start with a ship that has the new groups installed on it. So we're going to use a little bit of TV magic here to get to that stage, but I can walk you through the steps that I would take to get there. So the first thing that I would do is I would build up or boot up rather a fake ship, and you could do that by doing .fast urbit f and then whatever ship you want. I usually use Zod, so I already have one of those fake Zods running, and we probably saw that just a minute ago here, like this. So this Zod is going to be just a primary Zod like you'd have on the network today with graph store and none of this new group stuff. In order to get new groups installed, we're going to, again, links in the description below, need to go to the Tlon Corp Landscape Apps Get page, and we can follow the steps in the development.md file that's in there to add some new desks to our ship and commit over the new group stuff and make some changes to Garden and all of this stuff. I recommend that as you are developing on Urbit, you make backups along the way so that you don't have to do each one of these things every time. And if we look at what I have in my directory here, I have a Zod back, which is a backup of a base version of Zod, just, fully put together in the current state of 1.10 binary or whatever. And then I also happen to have if I can find it, I don't know my alphabetical order very well, Grow Zod here, which is a version of Zod with just those group steps taken from the, again, development.md resource on the Tlon Corp landscape apps get page. So I'm just going to go ahead and boot into that. And we can assume that I've gone through those steps here. So on this Zod, we know we're going to have chat installed. We can check it and see that it's there. Okay, great. So we have groups installed as we want it. Code is in the resources, right? Yes, if you want to see the code of the product that we're working through today, I suggest you look at the prod, the Dalton Collective /prod GitHub page. You can also look at the agent skeleton, which is where we are now. Okay, so we have a version of Zod with groups installed, and we're ready to kind of start building something. There's one more tool that you're going to need, and that is something called the new desk command. Now, I, again, TV Magic, have already put that on the ship. If we look at the base directory of this Zod ship in the, where's my, oh, I'm running Grozod, aren't I? Let's not do that. So I'm just copying my groups enabled Zod to my primary Zod directory so I don't mess up my backup. And now, if I mount base, oh, it's already mounted, right? So here's our base directory. If I look in here in gen, and then in hood, I'm going to have a file called new desk way down here that was written by Palf and Foslab. The code for this is also in the links below. It's a pull request. You're going to want to take the last commit. This sounds like too much work, and I agree with you, but the good news is this is going to be in the next version of Arvo. It's in next Arvo already, so as soon as that comes out, we're all going to have access to this without having to do this step. What new desk affords us is the ability to create a new desk, minimally viable, and I'll show you what that looks like. It basically just has a mark file in it. Let's actually go ahead and create it. So we're going to unmount base here. And this is where we're getting ready to start coding here. So I just want to be clear, all of this prior to now has been set up to get us into a valid ship state so that we can start doing the activity we want. The next thing we're going to do is the first thing that we're doing that's sort of new here. We're going to do new desk, and we're going to call our application prod because, again, we came up with the name first. Like, suppose I wanted to prod something about someone about something in the future, I could do it with this application. So we'll make this new desk prod, and we'll mount it. Mounting just takes the file system from Urbit and puts it into Unix so I can see it, or the Linux backend of my Mac or whatever.
And that is the answer to the question that was just on screen. The mount and unmount will do that linking.
Perfect. Yeah, Vinny, interrupt me if I'm not seeing these questions too, please. I'm going to talk far too much. So, okay. So our minimally viable desk here just has a mark directory and a sys file. So there's not much we can do with this, but we can start building off of it. And now that we have this desk, I can actually take what I have in, let's see what directory I'm in. Oops, I'm in the wrong directory. That's bad TV right there. So let's go into step one, new desk. This is from the repo that I have in the description below. And we'll see that we have that Mar and Kelvin version. So this is tracking along with your experience from using new desk. That's all we had to do in this step. So we have the new desk enabled. We can't really do anything with it yet. Let's move to our next directory, which is called something. And this is also something that I have available as a separate repo, an agent skeleton. All this is a minimal desk that also has an agent that compiles and builds. Let's look at it really quickly. I have it on screen here. It's this agent right here called mine. It has no real state to it. It has timing functions in each arm. And then, Vinny, this is kind of a weird pattern, but we've been talking about this lately, and I think we're calling it the nested core pattern now, and not the other word that starts with ENG that would be implied by this. But what do you know about the nested core pattern, or do you know anything that you could relate to the viewers about what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about this is you're kind of deferring off from the standard gall arms to something else that's going to more or less do the same responsibility. So in this case, in the first line, your cards and state, the second and third line are kind of handling passing those back to whatever's calling it in so to speak.
Yeah. So it's very similar to what you may have done before with a helper core at the bottom of your gall agent. And maybe you just had bowl as the argument of that helper core. So you knew that you had hour and now and the source.bowl and all of this stuff, but then you were just kind of doing logic down there. The nice thing about this nested core pattern that we have is it also allows us to kind of call arms sequentially to get some product that we then only need to tizcat once. You may have found yourself tizcatting many times in applications in the past. This solves for that a little bit. It's also kind of why I introduced this pattern early on in this like blank agent so that you can start thinking in that pattern. And we'll look at that part here at the bottom just a little bit. Yeah, okay, we got time. So the helper core that we have at the bottom right now has basically, well, it has 5 functions in it. The first thing that it does is it has this sample where it takes a bowl gall and a list of cards. So we know we're going to return that list of cards in a changed state. We can see that happening on line 89. So we're going to take that deck, we're going to invert the order of it. We'll talk about why in a second, but then we're going to return state as well. So anytime we see a bet, we can expect that what's going to be returned is a quip card and then something. If we look at the tizcat in which it's called, like we have up here, we have a quip card and then state, and that corresponds with quip card state, right? Like we're doing the same thing there. So we can kind of expect that anytime we see in a bet, it's going to happen inside of a tizcat experience, and the result of it is going to be the products here. So a new phase here that we can expect to be a list of cards or something like that, and then some changed element of the subject that already exists. Okay, boring talk enough. We are now at the point where we can kind of watch this into our agent. And again, this resource is like available for you to use now at the link in the description below. So if you want to start following along from here, you can. I mean, the skeleton agent. So I'm just watching that in, and I'm going to go ahead and commit it on Zod here.
And I meant, did you mean to watch that into GrowZod?
Oh, no, because I renamed GrowZod to Zod. So I always take my backups and rename them to the primary thing and then delete the primary thing, you know, and so on. Probably need to put our. Okay, and we have prod installed. So what can prod do right now? Nothing. It can tell us its state. That's pretty much all it can do. Okay, that's it for step like 1 of building an agent. We have built an environment, our Zod. We have installed the new desk application, which lets us create our desks. We mounted that. We produced a minimal agent on top of that that allows us to kind of get started with our creativity. And one of the things that I find really frustrating about beginning an agent is like having to write this boilerplate. So I've had this kind of file around it. Actually, I have projects that I've started and never finished. And usually what I do is I just copy those and then just replace all of the references to themselves. But the agent skeleton that I've produced here is like another way of doing effectively the same thing. Okay, let's get started coding this thing. So I'm going to pull up the file from my Zod desk here, if I can find it. Here we go. Here's prod. All right, and we'll get rid of these other files. And in this step, we're going to do, let's see, 2 things. We want to start watching chat, and we want to kind of see what happens when we watch chat. So here's the interesting thing about how I actually did develop this application in 6 hours when I first thought about doing this project. So yes, it is pre-developed as we've spoken to, but we are going to do it live on screen here. And the way I approached it was I don't really know a lot about the new chat. I haven't engaged with it a ton, but I know that there are endpoints in it that I can probably sync up to. And so I will just analyze those, see what seems like a likely fit, and then start getting facts out of it and start building on my theory. And it turns out, in fact, that the way that I built this is probably not the most optimal way to build it, but that's okay. We'll leave it as an exercise to the viewer to build it in the more optimal way, following a different path. Okay, if I want to watch chat, the first thing that I'm going to do is pull up the chat file. So I'm going to go to this landscape apps directory here, wherever it is. There we go. And look in the desk at app and pull up chat. And if I look down at Vinny, what section of a Gall agent would I look at if I wanted to see the subscriptions that I could choose from?
On watch.
On watch. Okay, and what the hell are they doing here? Well, they're doing one of those patterns that we saw just in our prior agent, right? They're doing an abet. And so we know that it's going to produce a quip of cards in the state. And we know that the place we need to look is this watch arm in the helper core. So let's go look at that. And we'll find it down here. Pull knot, for those of you unfamiliar with it, this is just a path. It's a fancy way of doing it so that you can put faces in the type checking that you're doing inside of your whatless here. So if you see that, know that you're probably dealing with a path. Well, you are in fact dealing with a path. Okay, so I came down here when I started programming this, and I was like, okay, I don't want to know when things are new. I don't want to know what the UI is getting. I don't want to know about invites. I don't want to know I don't even know what an epic is, so I'm pretty sure I don't want that. And then these other ones seem too specific because they're asking me to provide information that I don't already know, right? Well, that leaves me with one thing to watch, briefs. So the first thing that I did was I came over to my agent and I said, okay, well, I want to watch briefs. So I'm going to come down to my helper core. Mind that I'm not doing it in the core up here because we're already deferring all of our logic down. So we kind of keep this top section really tight. And then we have bottom helper functions that can be called in sequence. And the other thing about the helper functions that can be called in sequence is, in order for them to be called in sequence, they need to produce the door again. So our init arm produces this door again. It doesn't do anything. So when you do tiscat cards state and then abet init ing, all you're getting is an empty list of cards in the state back. So it's not doing anything. But in this way, I can also, since it produces dat again, I can call abet from init, if that makes sense. Does that track?
You want to just maybe quickly go over what dat is and how that works?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So up here in the primary core, we're calling the helper core ing. This is from a prior nomenclature where we would refer to these types of cores as engines, or at least some people would choose to refer to them as engines. That's sort of not in favor anymore. Also, I've noticed that there's a lineup issue here.
I was going to ask about that.
Thank you. So down here, though, we're not calling this core ing anymore. To differentiate it and make it clear that I'm referring to the core from inside of the core, I have aliased this door as dat. So that's a takeoff of aliasing your primary core as this and aliasing your secondary core as that, right? But instead of that, we'd choose dat. So it's a little shorter. Yeah, so then each one of these arms that I have produces a dat, which means that I can arbitrarily string them together. So we can do abet, init, load, emit something, right? So we need to call that. Right, we can do all of those in order because each time one of those arms completes, what it produces is the core again, which has the other arms in it. So this is the convenience of the engine pattern. Let's move ahead, though, and build these arms that we need. So I wanted to listen to chat. I'm going to write an arm called here that listens to briefs on chat, which we saw was the only one that I think is even roughly intelligible for what we're trying to do. So we'll just do here, briefs. Sure. Okay. And what are we going to do for here? Well, we need to make a card. So let's pass, and we'll just say chat agent. What agent? Well, we could put our.bowl chat here. That's fine. We could also come up here, since we probably will use that a few times, and put something like doc, and then our.bowl chat. So now we've aliased something that we can like throw in here, right? And we know that we're going to be dealing with chat several times. We might need to pass things back to it. So it's nice to have that alias for us. Let's dock that, and then we can say watch. So this is the primary mode of the card. We're saying pass on this wire to an agent, this agent. What are we doing? We're watching. What are we watching? A path, and the path is briefs. Okay, so we have the card. Is it briefs? Yes, we have the card here. How are we going to get this card into play? Again, we need this arm to produce a dat, and we have this helper function emit up here that we can see takes a card and just appends that card to the head of the list of cards that's in the sample, and then return stat with dec as that updated value. So we're just going to use emit to get that card out. Okay, now we can listen. We'll probably want to listen when we start the application, so we can just call here. See how easy that makes things to have everything producing the DAT again, so that
That's
we
nice.
can just kind of replace it in. Yeah. And then let's see, what are the other things we need to do? We need to change on init, right? And then we need to watch. And Vinny, when I watch something, where does data come in? What arm of the core does data come in on? Do you know?
On agent.
That's right. So we need to go up to on agent, and we could write it all in line here, but we're not going to. Instead, we're going to do a tisket of cards state, and we're going to have a bet something here, right? And then cards this. Okay, so this something, we're going to do dude-ing were sig. So if you don't know, running Gall agents, or Gall agents generally, are called dudes. And I use this nomenclature to transfer from on agent to dude in the below core, just like I had on init to init, on load to load. And in this way, all of my helper core primary arms have 4 letters that are also easily tie-backable to the 10 arms of Gall that you are primarily expecting. So I also do
instead of agent, so it can be 4 letters. So I was wondering about that when I was looking at it.
Yes, it is. Important question. What keyboard switches and keycaps? I'm using a DOS keyboard Ultimate, blacked out keycaps, bought about 15 years ago. So it doesn't have the turny knob or anything. It's just
are they blues?
Yeah.
Something clicking.
I think I have browns. Maybe I got the blues. I can't remember. So let's write on dude, or just dude here. And okay, so dude is going to take, we're going to use the pull not trick because I like how it looks. And I do it in all of my helpers. You could just do a wire or a path here. It doesn't really matter. Some people would get mad at me for doing this when I'm not actually going to give an alias to any of the subordinate things. And those people aren't on this stream. So guess tough luck. Okay, so we're going to take a wire and assign agent Gall, and we see that that's the same as what we're getting in on agent up here, right? So now we're going to call to the dude down here, and we only really need to do one thing. First, we're going to make sure that this produces a DAT, and then we're going to, we could do something like, if it's not the path that we expect, this is the wire that we're like subscribing on, right? Let's go ahead and do this. This is fine. So if it's not that, then we produce stat again. If it is that, then let's do a check on the head of sig. And do you know, Vinny, this is becoming a quiz because I'm trying to make it more integrated, but do you know the various signs that you can receive from an agent?
Was it fact and kick and etc.?
Yeah. And so the other two are just watch ac and poke ac. Now, this path, we're never going to get a poke ac on. So I could do this, but this is kind of like unnecessary and weird because I'm never going to get a poke ac on that. So instead, I'm just going to handle these 3 cases and otherwise return that. You could also do something like sig bar, bad sign, arvo, sig, and crash there if you wanted to, right? So maybe that's what we do. And maybe we do that here too. We'll do bad poll, or bad wire agent poll crash. Okay, so if it's not getting something we expect, we crash. What do we do in the case of a kick? Well, we need to keep listening to chat, so we're just going to call here again. What do we do in the case of a fact? Well, I don't know what kind of facts we're going to be getting yet, so I'm, when in doubt, sig pam it out, as I like to say. It's a takeoff of my mentor's to fix it fast, add a cast. And then the last thing is this watch act. So a watch act should return null. When we watch something and we are successful at it, we should get a null in the P of the sign agent Gall. If we are unsuccessful in the watch, the P will be a stack trace. So it's going to be a list of leaves or a tang or a tank or whatever the hell it is. So in this case, we'll check to see if P is null. If it is null, then we're all good. So I'm going to use the functional hack same, which says just return dat again. And then if it is not null, so if we had some error, we'll just slog it out, u.p.sig. And this line may be confusing to new Hooners. Let's talk a little bit about what it's doing. So basically, all this is doing, oops, that's not what I meant to do. This is effectively the same thing as saying whether or not we're watched, we're just going to produce dat. Because I'm not going to handle the error exception of like chat can't be watched and you got kicked. Okay, this is an experimental program. We're not handling that. But what I can do for my users is I can say, we're definitely just going to return dat no matter what happens. If you are successful on watching, we're going to return it without an error message. If you are unsuccessful at watching, we're going to return it with an error message. Another way of writing this, just to make it perhaps a little more clear for early Hooners or people who just aren't used to having the argument called against some functions, is you could do if is null p.sig, then we'll return dat, or we could even return slog success. Sorry, I can't type. We could do that, and then if it's not null, we could do slog u.p.sig called against dat. Okay, so in these cases, it's success or error, one of the two options. It's the same thing as what we had before, just written in a slightly wider form. And so I prefer this method. Okay, that's all we're doing there. Let's save these changes. I think I have, oh, and we need on agent to call dude. We already did that, didn't we? Yes. Okay, so I think we're all good here. Let's commit this. Am I still, yeah, I'm in prod. Okay. Great. And now if I open up landscape, which I should be able to do here, and sign in, bear with me for 1 second. And we go into groups, new groups, the gray one. I always click on the red one first because it's a red color. And let's create a group. All right, test. I don't want to do privacy, whatever. Create the group. Oh, and we got some, oh, this isn't Hark though. So that's not my problem. That's good. And then let me get my window back here. There we go. And let's create a channel. New channel. We'll call it chat, test, chat. And we'll add the channel and we'll go into test chat and we'll start typing. Oh, okay. I'm not getting the result I want. Why? Because I changed to listen to chat on init, but we only run init one time when the agent is first installed. So what I got to do, nuke prod, install our prod. Now, if we come back in here and do, if I can find my mouse, here we go. Right? Right, so we're getting some output from our agent. This is great. Okay, so now we know that we're looking for a chat brief update. So what I would do from here, so this, we know that this is happening every time I send a message in chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, this is a mark. I know it's a mark because that's what I'm sigpamming out when the P of a cage is a mark and a sign, or a mark and a vase, right? And the mark is the P and the Q is the vase. And so we could extract the vase. How do we extract the vase? Well, we're going to look at landscape apps and we're going to check out the mark file for chat brief update. Chat brief update. If we look at this, we're going to see that that's calling, or that is receiving an update brief C. Okay. Here is a point where we're going to use a little movie magic, our TV magic again. I then, in the pursuit of this agent, went through the rest of these files and said, okay, to build C, I need to have these files in place. And to build chat.json, I need to have these files in place. And I need to copy all of those things over to my mark directory. And I need to start being able to build those up so that I can import chat into my agent. And I can start using those types to unpack that. It turns out that what we need is this chat directory. This is in the mark directory, and this is in the package file in the repo that I have for prod. but it's also stuff you can find from landscape apps. I just extracted them for us here. So we need chat, and is that it from here? Yes. We need the chat mark files. Is that it? Yes, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and paste those into the mark file here. And my stupid IDE, I have to like click on the thing twice for it to paste in the right place.
Sir files as well?
Yeah, we're gonna get them. And I'm also gonna get these lib files. So I need chat.json, epic. Ask me what epic does, Vinny.
Hey, what does epic do, Eric?
I have no idea. But I know I need it in order to build something else. So I just included it. In fact, I'm not even sure that I do need it to build it. I was just like, sure, it's fine. You can come along for the ride. Yeah. And then the last thing is we need some SIR files from up here. So we need chat 0. That's just an old version, but I think it's read into chat. Yeah. So see, this is the thing that I had to do. So, right, I looked at the MAR file, which imported chat. I looked at the chat file, which imported groups and chat 0 and meta and site, and we'll see epic here. So I do in fact need epic, right? And this told me what other files I needed to import. So again, we could have done that live on stream for you, but rather than spend your time with me reading things, we're just going to copy those files down. Okay, so I think we have everything we need now. Let's just go ahead and commit prod again. And now we have all of the files that we need to begin interpreting those chat things that we are getting. And we still have 30 minutes left to do this. We're going to make it, friend. I did not think we were going to be able to do this. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, right. All right. So we're getting in these. Let me, I'm going to put my chat window on another monitor that I have so I can type into it, and you'll just have to assume that I'm actually doing that and not cheating. Okay, so there we go. So we got this on chat brief on update, and we can see that some stuff is happening here. We get prod taking 235 seconds to do something, and then chat's like taking some drafts as I type stuff and whatever. Doesn't matter. We need to unpack this thing. The next thing that we're going to do, okay, so we're through what I would call phase 3. We started with phase 1, which is building an environment. Phase 2 is building a blank agent. Phase 3 is starting to watch chat. We now know that we're getting facts from chat. We need to, in the next phase, phase 4, unpack that and start seeing what it is that we're getting from chat, okay? So that we can start interpreting what we're going to do there. So if we go up to the top of, this is the wrong file. If we go up to the top of our agent file here, we're going to just import chat. Now, I'm going to do something that Vinny doesn't like, and that is use what, okay, here's a fun thing, right? So we could call this a number of things. We could leave it as chat. And then if we want to reference something that's in the chat SIR file, we need to do whatever : chat, right? We could also give it a nickname. So we could call it like Cha or Ka, perhaps. This would be, correct me if I'm wrong, core developers who are in the house. This would be considered a lapidary name, 3 or fewer letters, I think. I think it's just 3 for a lapidary name. Or we could do what is called an ultra lapidary name. Don't ask me why they use stone cutting metaphors. I don't know. But an ultra lapidary name would be just the letter C to represent that chat file. Vinny doesn't like that because it is unclear when you are reading later. Go ahead, tell me why.
That's not the only reason why. It is unclear if you're reading it later, but also if you needed to import something else that started with a C, you now either have to start using a different naming scheme or get that other thing to be named something different, which is knowledge that has to be elsewhere. That's why I don't like it.
So do as Vinny says and not as I does. All right. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do, let's see, we've imported this, and we're going to modify fact to start unpacking what we're getting there. So I'm just going to scooch this guy up because we're not going to change those two. And then I'm going to start modifying fact. Now, I could write this wide form. I could write it out to the right here, but I'm not going to be an animal on stream, at least. Keeping goblin mode only for offline events. And I'm going to...
Or the streams that are just with me.
Or the streams that are just with you. And I'm going to backtick and dent it. Okay, right. So here's what we need to do. We know at least one mark. So the way you handle facts coming in on a wire is you check the mark, and then you unpack the fact based on the mark. So the mark should tell you something about what's coming in. then you should know the shape based on the mark file. You should unpack the vase into that shape, and then you can handle that data. Does that all track?
Sounds good to me.
First thing I want to do is, we know that this is the mark that we want to handle. So we could do one of a few different things here. We could look through the chat file and look at every time briefs is called and see, or every time a fact is given on briefs, I should say. And it was like, salute your shorts. It's what you were thinking. I know. I
Yeah, the poll and everything. Yeah, totally.
Okay. So we're giving fact on briefs. We can see that chat leave is one of the facts that's given here. And then we also have this chat brief update. So we could write something that like handles this, like, you know, here's all the types of p.sigs that we could get. And one of them's chat leave. And one of, well, we can't even do that because we don't have a definitive type. So we'd still have to have like a, you know, bad thing, p.sig crash. Okay. Is that right? p.cage.sig. But we could do something like that. Yeah, yeah. And then we could handle both of these, chat brief update. Right, and like maybe we could, you know, we could do and handle it that way and commit this. Should work. And then if I come back to my window here and I do like, right?
Something's working.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's wonderful. But this is kind of like unnecessary because we're gonna home in on this one. Did you know that the expression is home in and not hone in? And I always thought it was hone in. It is. It's
because you're like honing a blade.
Pigeon. No. But you're homing in on a point. You're not making a point sharper. Okay. So we're just going to check to make sure that this is chat brief updates. Chat brief update p.cage.sig.
Hey, yeah, Urbit got you. It's in the description. It's the prod repo from Dalton. Yep.
All right. So if it's not that, we could crash or whatever, but we don't want it to crash necessarily. We just want it to ignore those. So we're going to do that. If it is a chat brief update, we're going to unpack it. Update is in movie magic or TV magic. I know what the shape of this is. It's a whom C and a briefs C. What are those things? Well, we'll see them in a second. Cage.sig, and let's just sig pan.
You got some down. Beef in your briefs. You got to type. You're missing an R.
Thank you. At least I don't have dead beef. That would be bad. And then that. Okay, so that should work for us. Let's commit prod and run a few chat messages. Task message. Danny is cool. Hi boys. Okay, so we're getting something, but it's not the message yet, right? It's just this like, hey, something happened at this time, and you could do some stuff to find out about it. And that's a little frustrating for me when I was writing this, because I was like, it's not what I wanted, right? So what do I do from here? Well, the right thing to do at this point is to reevaluate whether this is the appropriate subscription path, but we are speed hooning. We're not doing the right thing here. So what we're going to do is see if we can use something about this fact to trigger some other thing that will tell us what the message is. And in fact, we can. So I want to look at, if I wanted to get instant information out of an agent instead of subscribing to information about the agent, what would I use?
Sounds like a scry to me.
It is a scry. So I'm going to look at onPeak, right? And oh, great. onPeak is aliased in the core. Now I see why people don't necessarily love the engine pattern until they learn how to use it. And I got to tell you, it's a lot better to write in. Okay, so we can scry on a path and we can get some stuff here. And what's the one that I want? It turns out that the one that I want is actually in a library. So I don't want to have to show it, but it is. Where is it? Just take my word for it. We're going to write the scry here. So there's a scry to get the most recent messages out of a given chat. And we know which chat gave us a message based on this element out of what we already have. So what I'm going to do is write a scry that each time we get a message in, it's going to scry to chat and go, what was the last message that you had in that chat room? And then that fact will be returned, whereupon I can then evaluate that. That scry is going to look a little something like this here. Let's just go. Okay, so in new chat, this is something you wouldn't know unless you'd investigated it a little bit, but a whom, we can actually look at this. Let's look at it. I'm in the wrong part. Help me, Vinny, where's my store file? There we go. Whom. A whom can be one of these three things. This is a DM. This is like a group DM, I think. This is a chat. I don't care about the other two cases. We could handle those. We're not going to. Instead, we're just going to handle the flag case. So I'm going to check to make sure that the head of flag is a whom. Head dot, and we could do like, I could have given these spaces. So like, let's say we do W and B, right? So we could do the head of W of update is a flag. If it's not, then we just, we don't do anything. If it is, then we're going to sigpam the following scry, which I will write out, map PET writ. See, so this gives us a series of writs. What's a writ? A writ is going to be, let's get to the actual writ. There it is. One of these. So a mop of messages to writs. And a writ then is defined somewhere. Where the hell is it? I can pass it. Hold on. There we go. A seal and a memo. We can then find from a seal. This is all stuff I don't care about. This is likes and things like that. Great. Don't care. Memo is, and here we go. This is what I want to get to. Right. So I know that this scry. So what I did to figure this out is I looked at, the scry has a library that it uses that I think is Cite, actually, that has that handles this. Yeah, let's look in here. Writ. Oh God, I don't remember. It doesn't matter. I looked through the libraries to find the place that I was going. Then I found one that produced something that I wanted, which I knew was this memo thing. So when I saw that it was producing this map, I was like, okay, we're in the right place. Then I wrote the scry. Let's just like this. We're going to whelp some stuff together here. All right, I'm losing my ability to type on screen. I'll just copy this in because I don't want to have to type it. Yeah, I know. I'm cheating now. Sorry, guys. So I have this scry written here that we can use for our purposes. That looks nice enough. And then we'll do dat down here. And this all needs to be backstepped one more time. Okay, so this should, if it commits, oh no, what have I done? P.P.
Where you gave it a face. You gave whom a brief for the face.
Oh, let's not do that. I don't want to have to debug that. Here. That will work. All right, great. So let's do, hey, look, I can read my message out of chat here, right?
Nice.
Quartus rocks. Okay, so next thing that we want to do is figure out what the structure, so, okay, where are we? We've just finished what we wanted to do in step 4, which is we want to watch stuff that's happening in chat, get the shape out. Once we get the shape out, we can start pattern matching against the shape, right? And the last part of this discussion, the next part, will be how do we handle the shape and what do we do with it when we get there? For now, I'm just going to show us what that shape will look like. So I've copied this Quartus rocks one, and I'm going to do what I want the instruction to look like, which is remind me in D10, and then paste in the reference, hit enter, and we can find what our output is going to look like. It's going to look like this. So
it's like a quoted message.
Yeah, exactly. This is a quoted message. And then the story is a citation, which is the quote right here. And then my input, which is down here. So this is like the block and the inline, I think, is the way that I might have those terms wrong. What I did with this, and you can actually see this still in the production release of prod, if I come look up here, is I just, oh, that's not right. I took this shape And I just dumped it in the top of my file, right? So that I could have that to reference. Okay, so that's where we are. We know our shape. We know what we want to target. The next thing that we're going to do, and this is what we're going to be doing for the remainder of the video, then I'll show you a brief demonstration of the finished product. The next thing that we want to do is write some logic that will take an incoming message that we get there with that scry, determine if it is of our appropriate shape, produce a, what vein would we want to use if we wanted to set a timer?
Bane.
That's right. We would produce a Bane timer that would then come back. And then lastly, when the Bane timer triggers, we need to send a message in chat. All right. That's the result of the product. Yeah.
You think if there's time now, you could explain why there's no like concurrency or like ordering problem here? Whereas I could see maybe someone new to this would look at this and say, well, what if like a bunch of messages got written before your scry happened or something? Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So there's a good answer to that question, a better answer to that question, and a bad answer to that question. The bad answer to that question is it doesn't matter on Urbit today because we are single threaded. So everything that happens to my ship happens in the order in which it happens. And when I receive some instruction, which is what an incoming chat message would be, when I receive that instruction, I process what we would call that card or that effect that was emitted by somebody. I process that to its fullest extent throughout all of its ramifications, which includes triggering prod before I go on to the next event in the sequence of events that are coming into my Urbit all the time. Does that answer?
Yep.
So that's the bad answer. The better answer is, that's a good question. Currently, single threading affords us a convenience where I can do this sloppy way. And the best answer is we shouldn't be using this watch. We should be using the appropriate watch and not doing it the way that I'm doing it. Yeah, speed tuning. That's right. Okay, so next one. The next thing I'm going to do for you here, I'm sorry, I'm losing my files on my left-hand screen here. The next thing I'm going to do is copy in kind of a large element of this program, but I'm going to use it for our convenience to walking through what I'm writing here. So basically, the next thing that we're going to do took me probably an hour or two to write in actuality. And so we couldn't do it live for you today, but I can talk through the thought patterns that I had when producing it, which I think will help explain why I use this pattern. Again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take this incoming update and we're going to scry out the new data, read that data, and see if it comports with our message structure. If it does comport with our message structure, we're going to take some action against it, setting a Bane timer, and we're also going to eventually get a message back from Bane saying that timer's gone off and we need to then post something about it. Okay. And one other pre-setup part that we're going to do, we're actually introducing our SIR file here. So I am going to go ahead and copy that from where I have it written up here. It's very simple. We can see that all that's in it is this definition of a flag, which I just used for my own convenience, but it's also in the chat files and all of the group's stuff from Tlon Corp. This definition of TAC, which is just a jug of flags to when the timer should go off and what we were supposed to mention. Okay, so this is just like our state data about what our agent is doing. And then the two actions that you can take with this, which we won't even be implementing today, those only happen through the sail interface, which I wrote for this, but I can show you at the end, to kick one of these messages or drop it. So, or rather kick the program, which clears out everything and starts it over. Dropping a message, you give it a pat DA and it stops remembering that thing for the future. So maybe you set it 600 years in the future and you're like, I don't really actually want it to remind me that. Okay, so.
But it would, because Urbit will still be around in 600 years.
That's right. So we're going to change, we've added this SIR file. Did I add it to my, I didn't. Let's add this SIR file if I can find it. Here we go. To the SIR file down here. Our folder, I should say. And I'm also going to change prod to, instead of using this silly thing, we're going to do 0, and then we'll have a thing called about, I think is what I called it. Like remind me about. and then tech. Okay, so this state change, I'm not writing a conversion for it because I'm lazy. So instead, we're just going to nuke prod. And if we commit that, oh no. I got to import my SIR file. You know what the tar in front of a name does in that part there?
That's not a bunt in that case, is it?
No, it's exposing the namespace. So it's like a tis-com. So I don't have to reference it with a col. Yeah, that's a good thought, though. Like, I can see that. Okay, so now we're ready to do the thing I said I was going to do a minute ago. And I need to recopy it and paste it in here. Okay, so I've created this engine. No, we're going to call it a nested core called BL that is going to have a pretty large sample, but we can see some things that are kind of in parity with what we saw in our initial one. First of all, we have a list cards, and we can see that we have an emit and a bet. So we know that what's probably going to happen is we're going to chain these things together to call them, and then we'll just emit a series of cards. What I can tell you about the rest of this is these are the 4 points of information that we need in order to determine if a message is for prod or not. First, we need a flag. So we need to determine if it came from a group message. Remember that a whom, or whatever it was called, the one that has like flag or club or DM or whatever.
Yeah.
That had things that I can't find it. I can never. There we go.
There it is.
We only want this one. So first we're going to determine if it came from a flag. If it didn't, we're going to drop it. We're just going to leave this as a null. The next thing we're going to determine is, was there a reference in it? If there's a reference, we're going to put in the pair ship DA. The last thing is, or the next thing after that is, what was the contents of the message? We want to make sure that it wasn't just any old reference, but that it had the, zap remind, hep me, and then a pat dr. And then the last thing is we need to know when they told us to set off that reminder. So that's a unit DA. Okay, so I can kind of conceptualize how these things are going to come together. Let's talk through the steps that we will use. And these aren't in order, but I'll walk you through them in order. We're going to have BL prep first, which is going to check if it's a flag, right? If it's a flag here. If it is, we'll add it to FUG. So we're going to put it in this flag here. Then the next thing that we're going to do is, yeah, it's this one. Sorry, to make sure. We're going to do BL last, which is perform that scry that we saw previously in the dude arm, right? And we can see that that's the same thing here. And what we're going to do with it is we're going to put it into that reference, right? And we have ref up here. See, there's that reference. Then we're going to do BL test, which is test if the last message in the chat we're watching is one of the remind me shape. And we can see how this code is very similar to that shape that we saw
up at the top.
Yeah, way up at the top. Or if I can scroll back here, see that there? There's our site. And then our string is this. And then break there. Do you see that commonality? So if it is common, then we're going to do a parsing function on it, get the timeout, and add that to now to get when we should set off the reminder, right? And this we're doing by just saying, find the space between these two things. The head should be remind me, and the tail is going to be a time. That's literally all we have to do there. Very easy. And then, so we do BL test. If BL test produces, if it's all gone well so far, we have a time right here. Then the last thing we're going to do is BL Bane. And BL Bane is going to go, is there a time? If there's not a time, we're done. We don't have to do any more work. If there is a time, we're going to set off a reminder to Bane, and we're going to put that reminder into our state object, the about that we had before. All of those things are fairly straight, and we're sending it to Bane with a fairly complex wire, which we can see in just a minute. All of those things are fairly straightforward in their parts, but does that make general sense, Vinny, or any part you think we should focus on?
No, I think that makes sense. That's the kind of passing of the core from right to left in the example you had in the very, very beginning.
All right, so let's get this thing running so that we can see it working before we run out of time here. I'm just going to take all these sections that I had commented, and we'll uncomment those That's not quite enough though. Back in on dude, we need to change what we're doing to handle it here. Let me actually just go to the prod version so I can get us to the end here. So in dude, right, in dude under fact here, we want to continue to check that fact, and we'll even do the, okay, I actually added one thing here. So in fact, we're going to do one thing to handle leaves. If we have chat leave, which means we've left the chat, cage.sig, we're going to get the flag from it, which is what it produces in the cage here. And we're just going to delete that reference, all references for that from about. Okay, so we got that. Then if it is not a chat update, which is the other, or chat brief update rather, we'll just do nothing. If it is a chat update, we'll go ahead and unpack it. I typed briefs wrong. Yeah. And then we'll just hand it off to our core cards state, and we're going to call it with my favorite part of this application, BL abet, BL bane. This is why you use this. BL test, BL last, BL prep, BL update. And this is an argument, so we need to put parentheses around it.
And so that will do all the right stuff if it's got the right thing, but will just kind of fail quietly if it doesn't, somewhere along the pipeline.
That's right. Oh, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do mill cards. Yep, there we go. Yes, so this is going to either produce it's going to produce, we know, a list of cards in state. Either state will be changed or not. Either the list of cards will have cards in it or will be null. Either way, all we do is accept the changes to state and then emit the cards using a mill. Very easy. So we've done that section, and we need to do on Arvo, which I'm also going to like slapdash in here because we don't need to go through all of it. All it's doing is reading the wire. So I have this relatively complex wire that I'm emitting. Where's my wire? I'm emitting my facts on. When is it supposed to go off? What's the flag? What was it mentioning, right? Mm-hmm. When we go, let's make a new arm called Arvo in here. This will handle on Arvo. This is where Bane's going to come back. We need a pull, not sig sign Arvo. And this is going to return a dat as well. And we want, let's do add Arvo wire pull. Yeah, that should do it. Why do I have that indented more there? I don't know. It is strange. Whatever, doesn't matter. Yeah, so that should work. Let's see. So we have us emitting a fact, and then we're going to, did I comment? Yeah, this is all, oh no, I need this one fixed. We need that. Otherwise, it's never going to do anything. Let's see if this commits. Maybe we'll have some errors. Maybe we won't commit. Oh, doesn't want comments before the opening of a gate, I think. Oh, no, they don't have spaces there. What am I doing wrong? BL last? What do you mean find BL last? Didn't I call it BL last?
Yeah. Is something not closed or something?
No, it means that BL prep isn't producing a DAT, which I need. Or a blab, I should say. I wonder if Griffith wasn't liking those comments in there. I didn't have the comments in there. I'm going to just get rid of them. I got 0 seconds. Oh no. Okay, well, the rest of it is already there. I'll see if we can demo it still. Let me just copy the resulting folder in. We'll do that. So if I back out to package, watch that in. And we can see that it's just added a few things. So like, this is what I was just doing, that Arvo section here. Dude looks fairly similar, except for now we have some stuff for happening on a reminder. Blab is the same as we left it. And then the one other thing that we're going to have in here is I have some stuff for handling rudder, which is here in this on poke arm, because I built a little rudder core for it too, but we don't have to get into that. Let's commit that, and hopefully it will actually commit. There we go. And let's test a reminder in chat. Bang, remind me S1. Hey, it worked. There we go. Live coding an agent for you, brought to you by Quartus. Talk to us soon.